Welcome to another episode of Extreme Expat Stories of Thailand. You'll never believe what happened to me in Thailand. Nearly lost everything, including my life. Dear mate, right. I know you get thousands of emails from subscribers, but I promise you this one's different. I'm Gareth. Been watching your channel for ages now. Proper addicted to your travel stories, I am. I'm originally from Llanfairpwll. Yes, that ridiculously long Welsh name. Been living in Thailand for 3 years now, and Christ almighty, do I have a tale for you. You know how you always say the best stories come from the moments when everything goes tits up? Well, buckle up, because I've got incidents, two actually, that nearly ended me. Literally. One involved losing nearly everything I owned to a scam, so cleverly it made me question my own sanity. And the other, well, let's just say I now know how it feels like to hear gunshots while hiding under a bamboo bed at 3 a.m. on a remote Thai island. But I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Let me start from the beginning, because this whole mess started with what I thought was going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. March 2024. I'm living in a little apartment in Chiang Mai, teaching English online to pay the bills and living the digital nomad dream. Proper sorted I was. I had my routine down pat. Morning coffee at the same little cart. Evening Chang beer watching the sunset from my balcony. Life was good. Too good, as it turned out. That's when I met David at a co-working space in Niman. Lovely bloke. Australian. About 60. Been in Thailand for 8 years. The kind of expat who knows all the best local spots. Speaks decent Thai. Seemed like he had his head screwed on right. We got chatting over coffee. You know how it is. Two English speakers in a sea of Thai chatter naturally gravitate towards each other. David starts telling me about this cryptocurrency investment opportunity he'd gotten into. Now, I know what you're thinking. Gareth, you muppet. Didn't your mom teach you about stranger danger? But this wasn't some dodgy bloke in a tracksuit flogging Bitcoin behind a 7-Eleven. This was sophisticated, mate. Proper professional. He showed me his portfolio on his phone. Screenshots of returns that made my eyes water. We're talking about turning 50,000 baht into 200,000 in 6 weeks. The platform looked legitimate. Had all the right badges and certifications. Even had a physical office in Bangkok's financial district. I'd seen the building myself. Gleaming glass tower, security guards, the works. The thing is, David says, stirring his coffee like he's discussing the weather, they're only taking on new investors for another week. After that, they're closing the books until next year. Classic pressure tactic, I know now. But at the time, it felt like destiny knocking. I should mention here that I'd been following the news about expat success stories. There was this Danish guy who'd made millions trading crypto from his villa in Phuket. British retirees living like kings off their digital investments. Social media was full of these stories, and honestly, living on my teaching salary while watching rent prices soar, the FOMO was real. David offered to introduce me to his contact, a woman named Siripon who worked for the investment firm. Professional as anything. Met us at a posh hotel in Bangkok, wore a proper business suit, spoke perfect English with just a hint of a Thai accent. She had business cards, brochures in English and Thai, even a tablet showing real-time market data. The minimum investment was 100,000 baht, about 3 grand. Every penny I had saved up, plus a bit I'd borrowed from my emergency fund. But Siripon showed me the contracts, the insurance policies, the regulatory approvals. Everything looked legitimate. She even encouraged me to take time to think about it, which perversely made me trust her more. I transferred the money on a Friday. By Monday, I could see it growing in my online account. Tuesday, it was up 15%. Wednesday, 22%. I was messaging my mates back in Wales, telling them I might not need to come back for Christmas after all. I might be able to afford to fly them out to Thailand itself. Thursday morning, I woke up to an email saying there had been a technical issue with the platform and all trading was suspended for 48 hours. No worries. These things happen, right? Technology glitches are normal. Friday came and went. Then the weekend. Monday morning, I tried to log into my account and got an error message. Website wouldn't load. I called the phone number on my contract. Disconnected. Went to the office building in Bangkok. Security said no such company had ever rented space there. That's when it hit me like a ton of Welsh slate. I'd been had. Properly. Thoroughly conned. David, Siripon, the whole bloody operation. Gone like smoke. My life savings. 3 years of careful budgeting and living modestly. Vanishing into the Thai digital ether. I spent the next week in a proper state, mate. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Just kept refreshing that dead website, hoping it would magically come back to life. I scoured expat Facebook groups and found I wasn't alone. There were dozens of us, all with the same story. Turns out David wasn't even Australian. According to one victim who did some detective work, he was Romanian. And this whole thing was an elaborate long con targeting Western expats. The worst part? I found out later there had been warnings. Posted on Reddit, shared in expat groups, even mentioned in local English language newspapers. Stories about foreigners losing everything to sophisticated cryptocurrency scams. Retirees being left homeless in Bangkok after losing their pensions. I'd seen the headlines, but never thought it could happen to me. Classic case of it won't happen to me syndrome. But here's where it gets interesting, and where my second story begins. After losing my savings, I was properly skint. Had to move to a cheaper place, eat nothing but 7-Eleven sandwiches and mama noodles. The works. My mental health was in the toilet, and I was seriously considering packing it in and going back to Wales with my tail between my legs. That's when my mate Jamie, another Welsh lad I'd met through the Expat Football League, suggested we take a cheap trip to Koh Lanta. Nothing fancy, he said. Just a few days to clear your head, get some perspective. Jamie's one of those eternally optimistic types, the kind who finds silver linings in thunderstorms. We found a place online for 400 baht a night, basic bamboo bungalows on the quieter side of the island, away from the main beach scene. Perfect for a couple of broke expats looking to lick their wounds and figure out what's next. The first couple of days were exactly what I needed. Proper therapeutic. Swimming in water so clear you could see your toes. Reading books under palm trees. Eating fresh fish that cost less than a pint back home. I was starting to feel human again, thinking maybe Thailand wasn't trying to destroy me after all. Then came Sunday night. We'd had a few beers at the local beach bar. Nothing excessive, mind you. Just enough to feel relaxed and sleepy. Got back to our bungalows around midnight. said our good nights, and I crashed on my bamboo platform bed like a log. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to what sounded like firecrackers going off. Pop, pop, pop. Regular as clockwork. Still half asleep. I figured it was some late night celebration or maybe kids mucking about with leftover Chinese New Year fireworks. Then I heard shouting. Angry voices in Thai. Getting closer. And those pops weren't firecrackers. They were gunshots. I'm lying there in the dark, heart hammering like a techno beat, trying to process what I'm hearing. The voices are getting closer, and I can make out at least 2 different groups of men. There's urgency in their voices, the kind of tone that makes your blood run cold even though you don't understand the language. My bungalow was raised up on stilts, typical Thai beach construction, with gaps between the bamboo slats that let in air and, unfortunately, sound. I could hear footsteps on the sandy path outside, torches flashing through the trees. That's when my survival instincts kicked in. I rolled off the bed onto the floor and army crawled underneath it, pressing myself against the back wall where the shadows were deepest. The bamboo was rough against my back, and I could smell the musty earth beneath the bungalow. More shots. Closer now. Then the sound of someone running, crashing through the underbrush. I heard a motorbike start up and roar away, followed by another one. I'm lying there under this bed, wearing nothing but my boxers, trying not to breathe too loudly, when I hear a new sound. Someone trying to open the door of the bungalow next to mine. Jamie's bungalow. The handle rattled. A low voice said something in Thai. Another voice responded. And then I heard footsteps moving toward my door. Mate, I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life. Not even when Wales lost to England in the Six Nations and I had to walk through Cardiff wearing my red jersey. And that was properly terrifying. This was different. This was life and death scared. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. I could see a torch beam through the gaps in the bamboo, moving slowly, methodically. Whoever it was, they were checking each bungalow. I don't know how long I lay there. Could have been 5 minutes. Could have been an hour. Time does weird things when you're convinced you might die. All I could hear was my own heartbeat and the distant sound of waves on the beach, which suddenly seemed like the most beautiful sound in the world. Eventually, the voices faded away. The torch beams disappeared. I waited another hour before I dared to move, every creak of the bamboo making me freeze. When I finally crawled out from under that bed, my whole body was shaking. I threw on some clothes and crept over to Jamie's bungalow, found him sitting on his bed, pale as Welsh mist, still in his clothes. "You heard that too?" he whispered. "Heard it. I nearly became part of it," I said. We spent the rest of the night sitting together, jumping at every sound. At first, light. We packed our bags and got the hell out of there. The ferry ride back to the mainland was surreal. We sat on the deck, watching Koh Lanta shrink behind us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd just escaped something terrible. Jamie kept making jokes, his way of dealing with stress, but I could see his hands were still shaking when he lit his cigarettes. We found out later through the Expat grapevine what had actually happened. Turns out there'd been some kind of dispute between local fishing crews over territory rights. Nothing to do with tourists. Nothing to do with us. Just wrong place, wrong time. But in that moment, lying under that bamboo bed, I thought I was going to end up as another cautionary tale in the expat Facebook groups. You know what the weird thing was? After surviving that night, losing my money to the scammers didn't seem quite so devastating anymore. I mean, money can be earned back, right? Can't say the same about your life. But here's where the story takes a turn for the better. And why I still love this mad country despite everything it's thrown at me. Remember I mentioned being broke after the scam? Well, when I got back to Chiang Mai and started telling people what had happened, both the financial disaster and the Koh Lanta incident, the response from the local community was incredible. First, there was Kun Male, the woman who ran the little coffee car where I had my morning coffee. When she heard I was struggling, she started giving me free coffee and telling other customers about my situation. Within a week, I had 3 new private tutoring students, all referred by people who'd heard my story from Male. Then there was the expat community. Jamie started a small fundraising effort. Nothing massive. Just people chipping in 500 baht here and there. It wasn't enough to replace what I'd lost, but it was enough to get me back on my feet, cover rent for a couple of months while I rebuild. But the most amazing thing was when I discovered that other victims of the same scam had formed a support group. We started meeting weekly at a cafe in the old town, sharing our stories, helping each other navigate the legal system, providing emotional support. Some of these people had lost everything: their pensions, their savings, their retirement dreams. But instead of wallowing in misery, they were helping each other rebuild. There was Margaret, a 67-year-old from Manchester who'd lost her entire life savings, 2 million baht, but was learning to teach English online to support herself. There was Klaus from Germany, who'd lost his house deposit but was starting a small tour guide business. Seeing their resilience made me realize that my situation, while shit, wasn't the end of the world. You know what's funny? Before all this happened, I thought I knew myself pretty well. Thought I was worldly, experienced, too smart to fall for scams or get caught up in dangerous situations. The crypto con and the Koh Lanta incident stripped away all those illusions pretty quickly. But they also showed me things about myself I didn't know were there. Like the fact that I could keep my head in a genuinely terrifying situation, or that I could bounce back from financial ruin without completely falling apart, or that I was braver than I thought, not just in terms of physical courage, but emotional courage too. Living through these experiences changed my relationship with Thailand completely. Before, I was here as a tourist playing at being an expat. Now I'm here as someone who's been tested by the country and survived. It's a different kind of belonging. I still get nervous when I hear motorbikes at night, and I'm definitely more skeptical of investment opportunities now. But I also appreciate things more. The simple pleasure of a safe place to sleep, the kindness of strangers, the value of genuine community. What really struck me during all this was how many similar stories there are. The expat groups are full of people who've been scammed, threatened, or found themselves in dangerous situations. There was that British couple who overstayed their visa and ended up in immigration detention. The conditions in those places sound absolutely hellish, mate. Or the Australian retiree who ended up homeless in Bangkok because he trusted the wrong people with his pension. But for every horror story, there are also stories of incredible kindness and resilience. Thai people helping stranded foreigners. Expat communities rallying around people in crisis. People rebuilding their lives from nothing and coming out stronger. I think that's what makes Thailand so addictive for expats. It's not just the cheap beer and nice weather, though don't get me wrong, those help. It's the intensity of the experience. Everything here feels more vivid, more immediate. The highs are higher, the lows are lower, but it's also more alive somehow. I did go back to Wales for Christmas that year. Took nearly all my rebuilt savings to afford the flight, but I needed to see my family, eat my mom's roast dinner, watch rugby at the local with my old mates. It was brilliant, proper brilliant. Being back where people understood my jokes and I didn't have to think about every transaction. But you know what? After 2 weeks, I was itching to get back to Thailand. Not because Wales isn't great, it is. And it's home in a way Thailand never will be. But because Thailand had become part of me. The chaos, the unpredictability, the constant learning and adapting. I'd gotten addicted to it. My mates back home thought I was mad. Why would you go back after all that? They asked. Isn't it dangerous? Aren't you worried about getting scammed again? And yeah, of course I'm more careful now. I research everything twice. Never invest money I can't afford to lose. Always tell someone where I'm going when I travel to remote places. But living in fear isn't living, is it? These days I'm doing all right. Not wealthy, probably never will be, but comfortable enough. I've got a steady stream of online teaching work, do some freelance writing on the side, living in a nice little place near the university. I've even started saving again, though this time it's going into a boring old bank account, not some crypto scheme. I still meet up with the scam victims support group occasionally, though most of us have moved on now. Margaret ended up doing so well with her English teaching that she's bought a little apartment in Bangkok. Klaus's tour business is thriving. Turns out nearly getting shot makes for excellent storytelling when you're showing tourists around. And Jamie? Well, Jamie's still Jamie. Still optimistic. Still finding adventures. Still the kind of friend who'll suggest a sketchy beach holiday when you're at your lowest point. We laugh about that night on Koh Lanta now, though neither of us is in a hurry to go back there. So why am I writing you this massive email at 2 a.m. Thailand time? Partly because your videos got me through some of the darkest days after the scam. Having something familiar and entertaining to watch when I couldn't sleep was proper helpful. But mostly because I think there's something in this story that might resonate with your audience. Travel isn't always Instagram perfect moments and life-changing sunsets. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's financially devastating. Sometimes it tests you in ways you never expected. But those difficult experiences, the ones that push you to your limits, those are often the ones that change you the most. I'm not the same person who landed in Bangkok 3 years ago with stars in his eyes and too much trust in strangers. I'm more cautious, more resilient, more appreciative of simple things like safety and genuine friendship. I'm also more confident in my abilities to handle whatever life throws at me. Would I change what happened? The scam, definitely. I'd love to have that money back. But I wouldn't wish that financial stress on anyone. But the Koh Lanta incident, as terrifying as it was, it taught me something important about myself. Sometimes you don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. Thailand's not for everyone, and I'd never try to convince someone to move here based on my story. It's beautiful and maddening and generous and dangerous, sometimes all in the same day. But if you're the kind of person who values experience over security, who'd rather have wild stories than a predictable life, then maybe it's worth considering. Just do your research, trust your instincts, keep your wits about you, and always have an emergency plan. And maybe avoid investment opportunities that sound too good to be true. They probably are. Oh, and if you ever find yourself hiding under a bamboo bed at 3 a.m. listening to gunshots, just remember, it makes for a brilliant story later, assuming you survive to tell it. Keep making those videos, mate. They mean more to people like me than you probably realize. Huil Far from Thailand. Gareth Gas Davies. Still alive, still broke, still wouldn't trade this mad adventure for anything. P.S. If you ever decide to do a video about expat scams or dangerous travel experiences, I'll be happy to share more details. Just maybe don't mention my real name. I'm still a bit paranoid about those crypto scammers tracking me down.